Quick podcast update. So this was actually going to be the original episode 39 of the Unnecessary Nonsense podcast. And part of the plan was that I actually had a whole podcast recorded. Dave was still a little under the weather, off in his ditch somewhere. We were going to send the search party for him. But I had already recorded a whole episode talking about things like Antonio Brown, talking about things like I didn't want to talk about Antonio Brown anymore. But the reality was, as I was finishing up the edit to get the podcast up tonight, Sunday night, in order to have it before the beginning of the new week, the news broke about Kobe Bryant dying in a helicopter accident. And while I don't have really that connection to the NBA and I can't share any anecdotes about my memories of Kobe Bryant, although I was familiar with his work and I was aware of a lot of his impact as far as the basketball world is concerned, it became a little bit unnecessary to release a regular podcast, given that this story kind of overshadows all those other ones. Most of them were pretty frivolous in the grand scheme of things compared to what's going to be a outpouring, most likely, of tributes, whichever has already started. Even as I'm talking to you right now, I've already seen quite a bit out there. One of the most interesting things for me was looking at the reaction on social media. And it is kind of a testament to the age that we're in of social media that you had the variety of reactions. You had the intensely strong reactions. You had people immediately going into denial. And then you also had the irresponsibility. And I could go completely off on the deep end of that, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But the long story short is, I'm not going to spend much time here speculating, although we know at the moment that I'm comfortable in saying with any reasonable authority is that Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter accident, most likely with his oldest daughter, and that's kind of what's been reported out. But beyond that, the reporting has been all over the place, and that's part of the reason why I say I don't want to go any further than that. That's, to the best of my ability, what seems to be more or less corroborated. More will come out. The details will become a lot clearer, but there's already been a lot of, the number of people on the helicopters, the numbers shifted around, and who was actually on it has shifted around, and it's been all over the place, including saying some of the family was there and then they weren't. And I don't want to get into all of that because for obvious reasons, it's completely irresponsible to try to scoop everybody by being first on the scene. Well, the problem with trying to be first on the scene is it also means that you're likelihood of getting it wrong is a lot higher. And the truth is, I'd rather be right and be a little further down the line of people reporting or stating something rather than try to be first and, hope that I happen to have hit most of the points correctly. Long story short, Kobe Bryant will have a major impact on the NBA story for the next little while. There will be the outpouring of tributes. There will be I wouldn't be surprised if there are many different memorials, and then it also wouldn't surprise me if several other teams retire his number and a lot of other tributes through that way. And there's a lot of things that I'm sure the NBA is probably working on right now, trying to figure out how they want to commemorate it, but obviously it's really fresh. And right now, I think the main concern is everyone giving their condolences to the family, giving their condolences to friends and people who were affected or people that are saddened by what happened here. Kobe Bryant was only 41 years old, so in relative terms, while, as I said, I'm not emotionally impacted the way that a lot of other people are, I do have to take into consideration that, looking at the example, Kobe Bryant is 5 years older than I am. So from that perspective, it kind of makes you sit back and think, wow, that's really young, relatively speaking, because I don't consider myself to be that old. So somebody who's 5 years older than me isn't that much further along. So I think the appropriate thing here is not to really spend too much time talking about some of these other things because we will have time. And there will be another episode this week, upcoming, where we'll talk about some other things. Maybe some of the fallout from this, but obviously there'll also be the big NFL game at the end of the season that shall not be named. We'll have a chance to talk about that. And then hopefully Dave will be back and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about this and maybe we won't. But either way, I don't want to spread any other misinformation. So kind of a short episode, really. It's not really an episode so much, I won't even count it. The next one you hear will probably be the real episode 39. This one is just a little bit of an update to let you know that a podcast episode was being recorded, and obviously now it's been rendered unnecessary or obsolete based on this news. My condolences to the family and to any friends and anyone that's impacted. I would say take your time and respond to it however you feel appropriate. But at the same time, I would say what I might recommend to you is maybe stay off social media because it is very much a cesspool of a lot of people reacting strongly to things back and forth, both positive and negative. And I think it's probably better to just focus in on whatever it is you need to do to process it in whatever way you need to process it. as I said, we'll be back next time around. I won't even do any of the shameless plugs right now. We'll move on from that, and there will be an episode coming up in probably in the coming days, and then we'll get back to a little bit more lighthearted fare and talking about some of the other things going on in sports. There is plenty to talk about, and I'm looking forward to that, but tonight's not the night. Thanks as always for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.